Tonight, we're breaking down a high-stakes exchange on immigration enforcement, voting laws, and state-level tax policy, three issues that continue to define America's political divide. At the center, accusations of DHS leadership failure, disputes over protest rights during ICE operations, and a sharp debate over voter ID and citizenship verification. As we listen, we'll examine not just what's being said, but what the facts, legal precedents, and policy implications tell us about the broader national conversation.
You voted against funding the Department of Homeland Security. Why?
Well, good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me. I voted against it, quite frankly, because I think Kristi Noem needs to resign or be fired by the president. Under the president's own metrics, this is someone who's holding up 200 miles of border wall. She's deported less people than Barack Obama. She's sent out less federal aid to red states under FEMA. And quite frankly, under the president's own metrics, she's taken his approval rating on immigration from 59% in August to 39% in January. Americans voted to have people deported, criminals and gang members. They did not vote for people to be shot in the street by masked men. And so I think Kristi Noem needs to go. For me, it's about Kristi Noem. It's always been about Kristi Noem. I'm a former director of emergency management here in Florida for a Republican governor, and she's absolutely destroyed FEMA and DHS. So what I'd like to start.
Let me ask you, Congressman, what do you propose if ICE agents are doing their job and citizens get in their face? I mean, many of your colleagues, including the governor, by the way, of Minnesota, told the people to take out their cameras, make sure that you're rolling on ICE operations and get in their face and try to stop their operations. Of course, those ICE agents are going to respond if citizens get in the way of their ICE operations. So what do you propose they do?
Well, look, it's a great question. We have this happen all the time. That's why we have the right to protest here in America.
Well, no, we don't see people getting in the way of ICE operations all the time. Now we do, because you've got Democrats with rhetoric out there saying, get in their faces, get your cameras out, roll on it. Is that a responsible thing to do, to tell people to get in the faces of ICE operators?
Maria, we see it with police officers all the time in protests across the country on a number of issues. Police departments have training to deal with that. It's the ICE training that is failing. And so, look, I think governors and mayors need to obviously work with our federal government. That was part of the breakdown in Minnesota. OK, but in this country, you have a right to protest. OK, but you don't. A U.S. citizen should not be shot in the face just because they're protesting ICE with their camera. We deal with this every day in this country. Police departments deal with it. OK, they know how to handle protests. This is on ICE. And the reason we now know this.
If you've got a protester that is armed with a gun on his belt, and that person is getting in the way of an ICE operator, you're going to see a reaction. You don't have that all the time. You don't have people getting in their faces when they are armed. That is irresponsible. Of course they're going to react.
You have a right to carry in this country, and he had a permit for that weapon. And so, this has been an interesting debate that Republicans are having, because all of a sudden, you don't have a right to carry if you go to a protest in this country.
They didn't say you don't have a right to carry, but you should not be showing that you're carrying a gun and getting in the way of an ICE operator.
Yeah, he wasn't getting in the way of an ICE operator. He was filming to the side, and ICE decided to interact with...
Did he throw something at their car and knock out the light?
Yeah, there's evidence. There's evidence of that, Maria. But at the end, okay, but at the end of the day, if this was working so well, why did the president and Tom Homan pull out of Minnesota? It's because it's been an absolute and utter failure on behalf of ICE and behalf of DHS and behalf of Kristi Noem. She's more worried about where her blanket is than making sure that she's doing her job correctly and making sure that U.S. citizens in this country are safe, that they can protest safely, that ICE can do their job by enforcing the law against criminals and gang members, which is what the president told us. And so, look, this has been a failure. That's why they've pulled out, and that's why Kristi Noem should resign.
Congressman, let me ask you another question. Are you going to vote yes for ID to vote?
I'm for photo ID. We have photo ID here in Florida. And so I have no problem with photo ID. We use photo ID here in Florida. It works very well. But that's somewhat different than what's being proposed. What's being proposed is a separate, completely different identification just for voting.
Completely different identification? No, wait a minute. Because the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, is requiring voters to show ID to vote. And they also require a citizenship so that you stay with the law and, in fact, only.
At this point, the conversation shifts from immigration enforcement to election integrity, another deeply polarized issue. The congressman references dozens of court cases following the 2020 election in which claims of widespread non-citizen or fraudulent voting were rejected in court. That's factually accurate. Courts across multiple states dismissed or ruled against those claims due to insufficient evidence. However, supporters of stricter ID laws argue that preventative safeguards are justified even if large-scale fraud hasn't been proven. Critics counter that additional documentation requirements can disproportionately affect eligible voters, particularly women whose legal names may not match birth certificates, rural voters without passports, or lower-income Americans. So the core question becomes, is this about preventing a documented problem, or guarding against a potential one? And how should policymakers balance election security with voter accessibility? That tension sits at the heart of this debate.
Only have American citizens voting. So again, will you vote yes to that act?
Yes, so again, there's no evidence that non-citizens are voting. Obviously, there's no evidence of that. There's been 60
well, I don't know
or
if you
70
can say
court
that.
cases.
I don't know if you could say that, sir, because I think that there.
We can say that. There were,
what?
Maria, there were 60 to 70 court cases over the 2020 election in which they made accusations that non-citizens were voting, and they lost all of those cases. So look, I'm for people using their driver's license.
The law is the law, and it is that American citizens vote in American elections. So having an ID to vote would be in step with the law. So are you going to vote for the law?
If they put forward a bill that says you can use your driver's license or your state-issued identification to vote, I support that. We have that in Florida, but the SAVE Act goes way beyond that. It would affect women whose birth certificate doesn't match their driver's license. It will depress turnout by requiring people to go and re-register to go get this new voter ID.
Congressman. That's not true.
No, it is. It is absolutely true. This is about depressing turnout. It's not about making sure non-citizens vote. Let them use their driver's license.
Either, Maria. Congressman. The SAVE Act is a requirement for ID to vote. Period.
Yeah, let them use their driver's license. We now have a federal program for the driver's license. If you can use your driver's license to fly on a plane, you use your driver's license to vote.
And your colleagues don't want it. Chuck Schumer said it's dead on arrival to have an ID to vote. That's what I'm saying. The driver's license is an adequate form of identification to vote. But your colleagues do not want any ID to vote. Why? Because it sounds like they would like illegals to vote. That's what it sounds like if you're against an act to require citizenship and an ID to vote. That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, and I support using your driver's license to vote. That's what we have here in Florida. Okay. It works really well. If the bill was you have to use your driver's license to vote, I would support it. It could be a one-line bill, Maria. Yeah. One line.
Okay, so you just want the bill adjusted. You want the bill adjusted to just have an ID to vote and the use of a driver's license. How do we know that the driver's license is going to be adequate if you have heard stories that they're giving driver's licenses to illegals?
Again, there's no evidence that non-citizens are voting in our elections, Maria. There's none. Where's the evidence? Where's the court cases? There's none of that.
We have seen many cases, in fact, that illegals have, in fact, tried to vote. You even have illegals driving big trucks, and they can't even read the signs because they're in English.
Again, Maria, dozens and dozens and dozens of court cases over the 2020 election. All of them lost.
So what you're saying is if, in fact, the bill is adjusted to require an ID to vote, that's all, and you just want a clean bill that says, yes, you can have an ID to vote, you will vote for it.
Yeah, if it's exactly that, like what we have here in Florida, where I go and they take my driver's license, they put it into the machine, and I go and I get my ballot, I'm totally good with that.
Well, there's a passport card that is being used as the actual ID that is necessary now above the driver's license, because the driver's license issuance has been abused. Now, I wanted to ask you about this Mamdani.
There's a lot of people that don't have passports.
What?
There's a lot of people that don't have There's a lot of people that don't have passports, especially in rural America, don't have passports.
Okay. Whether it's a passport or whether it's a driver's license, whatever the ID is used to prove that you're an American citizen is what the act is calling for. But I want to ask you about Zoran Mamdani's plans. He's now warning that he would like to propose a nearly 10% property tax if no tax is issued on the wealthiest in New York. Do you expect we're going to see an exodus out of New York into Florida?
Yeah, that's already happening, right? And we've seen it out of Chicago. Ken Griffin moved his whole company here to Florida. We see it out of California. You know, Jeff Bezos.
What we've heard is more than a policy disagreement. It's a snapshot of how modern political debates unfold in real time. On immigration, the argument centers on accountability, enforcement standards, and protest rights. On voter ID, it's a clash between documented court findings and concerns about preventative safeguards. And on taxation, it reflects an ongoing national debate about whether higher taxes drive economic migration across state lines. These conversations are layered, blending policy, perception, and political messaging. The broader takeaway? In today's media environment, claims travel fast, but context matters even more. What do you think? Are these proposals practical governance, political strategy, or something in between? Share your perspective in the comments below. If you value balanced, fact-based analysis without the noise, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the issues shaping the national debate.
Mark Zuckerberg moved here. The Ellisons have purchased a lot of Palm Beach County. So we see this happening around the country. And yes, I think that if Mamdani's law were to go forward and he would increase taxes, I think a 9.5% increase, you'll see more people move here. By the way, that tax increase isn't just on the rich. It's on regular people making $122,000 median income. So it's not just on wealthy people.
Right. Well, $120,000 is a good salary. I mean, you know, that's what I'm saying. This is a policy that is driving New Yorkers out. And I'm wondering if you're thinking we're going to see a major exodus again, if in fact this takes place.
Yeah, no, I think the exodus is still going on. I think it'll continue. And again, these targeted wealth taxes that we see, right, from states, whether it's California, New York, the wealthy can just leave. Right. So these are not going going to work.
Congressman, did you want to add anything, Mike Lee? Because I see you're here.
Well,
I have
look,
Mike Lee with me.
You know, there's 23 states that do automatic voter registration when you get a driver's license. And, you know, 20 out of the 23 are blue states. You don't need to be a citizen. You don't even need to be here legally to get a to get a driver's license. Like, if you're not concerned with illegals voting, then why can't we prove citizenship, right? If you're saying it doesn't happen, then why can't we just write it in law?